If you close your eyes for a moment, imagine this. It's 1934, and high above the clouds of New York City, a woman sits on the gleaming steel head of a giant eagle, 61 stories above the streets of Manhattan. There's no safety harness, no hesitation, only the hum of the wind threading through her hair and the flash of light dancing on the metal. In her hands, a large format camera, heavy as courage itself. Below her, a forest of concrete and ambition. And around her, the pulse of an America rising toward the future. That woman was Margaret Bourke-White, one of the boldest photographers of the 20th century. That moment, her sitting on the steel eagle of the Chrysler Building, remains one of the most breathtaking images ever captured. But it wasn't just a photo, it was a declaration, a statement that art, courage, and vision could lift a single human being above fear, above expectation, above the world itself. Today, we revisit the extraordinary life of the woman who dared to climb higher, see deeper, and show us beauty in places no one had ever looked before. Margaret Bourke-White was born on June 14, 1904, in the Bronx, New York. Her father, Joseph White, was an engineer and inventor, a man who spent his life tinkering with machines and blueprints. Her mother, Minnie Burke, was a spirited Irish Catholic woman who instilled in young Margaret the belief that curiosity and courage could take her anywhere. From her father, she learned precision, a love for metal, gears, and design. From her mother, she inherited imagination, the desire to find meaning beyond function. As a young woman, she studied at several universities: Columbia, Michigan, Purdue, Western Reserve, before graduating from Cornell University in 1927 with a degree in photography and biology. At the time, photography was not a career for women. It was considered a hobby, a pastime. But Margaret was determined to change that. After graduation, she opened a small photography studio in Cleveland, Ohio, specializing in architectural and industrial photography. While most artists of her era looked for beauty in nature or people, Margaret turned her lens toward the machines of modern America: smokestacks, turbines, bridges, and foundries. She once said, "Industry, after all, has its own kind of beauty, a beauty that most people never stop to notice." In those years, photography was technically demanding. Inside steel mills, light was scarce and tinted red by molten metal. Most film at the time was sensitive only to blue light, making everything else vanish into darkness. But Margaret was inventive. She began using magnesium flares to create artificial white light, revealing for the first time the glow and rhythm of a working steel factory. The results were astonishing. Her photos of the Otis Steel Company captured not just the machinery, but the poetry of labor itself. Those images launched her reputation as one of the most daring photographers in America. In the early 1930s, New York was building toward the sky. The Chrysler Building, completed in 1930, was the tallest in the world, a triumph of the Art Deco style and a symbol of American ambition. Its architect, William Van Allen, designed it like a hymn to progress: stainless steel, geometric light, and soaring eagles guarding the city below. Margaret was invited to photograph the building. She fell in love instantly. In her memoir, she recalled, "When I learned that my studio would be inside the Chrysler Building, I felt I had found the place I was meant to be." And then came the photograph, the one that would echo through history. Margaret, wearing a heavy coat, climbed out onto one of the eagle heads that jutted from the 61st floor. There was no railing, no rope, only balance, wind, and willpower. She sat on the eagle's steel crown, with her camera beside her, as Manhattan stretched endlessly beneath her boots. The morning light hid the chrome like fire, and in that moment, she became a symbol. A woman, small in frame but infinite in spirit, daring to face both gravity and convention. That image wasn't just about height, it was about perspective. By 1929, Margaret's industrial work caught the eye of Fortune magazine, where her photographs of factories, bridges, and American workers began to redefine what business journalism could look like. In 1936, She joined Life magazine as one of its founding photographers and became the first female photojournalist on its staff. Her picture of the Fort Peck Dam in Montana was chosen as the cover of Life's very first issue. Millions saw it. It was monumental, both literally and symbolically. Through Life, Margaret began to travel the world, capturing not just machines but the people behind them, the pulse of nations, the faces of ordinary men and women living through extraordinary times. During the early 1930s, she achieved something no Western photographer had done before. She was granted access to the Soviet Union, then under Joseph Stalin's rule. There, she documented the country's first five-year plan, immense factories, hydroelectric plants, and the workers who powered them. Her book, Eyes on Russia 1931, offered a rare glimpse behind the Iron Curtain years before that term even existed. It was both technical and human, a record of ambition, ideology, and industry at a scale the world had never seen. She even photographed Stalin himself, and remarkably, Stalin's mother, one of the few Westerners ever allowed that privilege. When World War II erupted, Margaret didn't retreat to safety. She went straight to the front. She became the first accredited female war correspondent, working for both Life and the US Air Force. In 1941, when Nazi Germany broke its back and invaded the Soviet Union, she was in Moscow, the only foreign photographer present. Her photos captured the defiance of a city under siege, lit only by the glare of anti-aircraft guns. She later joined the US Army in North Africa and Italy, documenting soldiers, bombers, and civilians amid the devastation of war. In 1943, she flew on a B-17 Flying Fortress during a combat mission, becoming the first woman to do so. In 1945, she entered Germany with General George S. Patton's Third Army. What she saw there changed her forever. The liberation of the Buchenwald concentration camp. Her photographs of emaciated survivors staring through barbed wire remain among the most haunting ever published. Through her lens, war was stripped of glory, leaving only truth, humanity, and endurance. Back home, Margaret continued to document the soul of America. In 1937, she and writer Erskine Caldwell released You Have Seen Their Faces, a deeply human portrayal of Depression-era farmers in the South. The book forced Americans to confront poverty, racial inequality, and hardship with open eyes. That same year, she captured one of her most famous images, a line of African Americans waiting for food aid beneath a billboard that proclaimed, "World's highest standard of living. There's no way like the American way." The irony was devastating. The photograph at the time of the Louisville flood became a symbol of social awareness and the power of photography to question injustice. To understand why the Eagle photo endures, we must remember its time. The 1930s were an age of contradictions, of depression and invention, despair and hope. The Chrysler Building itself stood as both sculpture and sermon, shining steel rising from a struggling city. Those eagle heads perched at each corner symbolized freedom, speed, and the unstoppable American spirit. And on that perch, Margaret became both subject and author, the artist within her own frame. She wasn't merely taking a picture of the building. She was completing its story, a human being made of flesh and breath sitting atop the machine made of chrome and bolts. Margaret's artistry wasn't about beauty alone. It was about relationships between man and machine, progress and peril, fragility and steel. She found poetry in power, grace in gravity. That morning above Manhattan was more than a stunt. It was a dialogue between courage and perspective, between mortality and ambition. Her image reminds us that sometimes the best way to understand the world is to look at it from a terrifying height, where fear meets wonder. Margaret Bourke-White was not fearless. She simply refused to let fear dictate her art. Whether photographing a spinning propeller inches from her lens, standing on a catwalk above molten steel, or capturing a dictator's glare, she embodied the idea that courage itself can be creative. Nearly a century later, Her image on the eagle still takes our breath away, because it isn't just about a woman on a skyscraper. It's about all of us, confronting our own heights, daring to climb beyond what's comfortable, to see the world with new eyes. In her later life, Margaret continued to travel, lecture, and publish. But in the 1950s, she began suffering from Parkinson's disease, which gradually limited her mobility. Even as her body weakened, her spirit did not. She wrote an autobiography, Portrait of Myself 1963, reflecting on her adventures, her ideals, and the privilege of bearing witness to history. She passed away on August 27, 1971, in Stamford, Connecticut, at the age of 67. Her photographs are now housed in major collections: the Museum of Modern Art, the Brooklyn Museum, the Cleveland Museum of Art, and archives across the world. Margaret Bourke-White remains one of the most important photojournalists of the 20th century, a pioneer for women, for artists, and for anyone who ever pointed a lens toward truth. For those of us who have lived long enough to see the world change again and again, Margaret's story still resonates deeply. Courage to look from new angles. She never let convention, fear, or gender define her limits. She looked from where others wouldn't, and that made all the difference. Finding beauty in unlikely places, she found poetry not in sunsets but in steel mills, proof that beauty exists even in the heart of industry, if only we choose to see it. The art of bearing witness. Margaret didn't photograph just for beauty. She photographed to remember, to preserve moments when humanity trembled, yet endured. The journey matters more than the summit. Sitting atop the eagle wasn't the end. It was the beginning of a lifelong climb toward understanding. Her life reminds us that even as we grow older, we can still find new heights, new ways to see, to remember, to create. Dear friends, if this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of courage, of youth, or of a time when America itself seemed to be climbing toward the stars, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to Memory Lane Media, and ring the notification bell so you won't miss our next journey through time. And we'd love to hear from you. Have you ever faced your own steel eagle? A moment when fear met freedom? Share your story in the comments below. Your memory might inspire someone else to climb a little higher. Margaret Bourke-White once said, "Work is something you can count on, a trusted, lifelong friend who never deserts you." She showed us that to live fully is to keep looking up, around, and within. We may never sit on the eagles of the Chrysler Building, but we can all rise to our own summits, the quiet places where courage meets vision. Thank you for watching, and until next time, keep your eyes on the horizon and your heart open to the light.